FBI Director James Comey, he cleared Hillary Clinton of all charges, but not before many public missteps, misdeeds surrounding the investigation. According to the report, quote, one source telling ABC that the draft report explicitly uses the words insubordinate to describe Comey's behavior. Now, the IG report will also allegedly rebuke Loretta Lynch and fire Deputy FBI Director Andrew Mccabe. None of this is surprising. Remember, the Mccabe report came out, then comes the criminal referral. After all, we know about Comey's exoneration before investigation. We know about Loretta Lynch's illicit tarmac meeting with Bill Clinton just before she helped clear his wife of all these charges. And we all know about McCabe's Democratic ties and rampant pattern of lying. And we also know Hillary Clinton, she did commit felonies. She did obstruct justice. That is indisputable at this point. Now, as we reported last night, Andrew Mccabe, he's now requesting immunity from the U.S. Senate in exchange for his testimony, possibly against his former boss, James Comey. Now, the full unredacted report should literally have been released by now. And frankly, if it's released any time between now and next Wednesday, remember we have the summit on Tuesday of next week, that means they're trying to bury this on a summer weekend so it doesn't get the coverage it normally would. If they release it early next week, they are totally trying to bury this during this all-important summit in Singapore. Now, what Americans deserve, what you deserve, is justice in the form of criminal referrals for everybody we just mentioned. It has been 18 long months, and Mr. Obstruction himself of Congress, Rod Rosenstein, he has had this report for 2 weeks already, and I can only imagine what he's trying to get removed or changed or redacted. Our own Catherine Herridge has a new report about FBI lovebird, one of the two, Peter Strzok in this case. Remember, he was the agent demoted after his rampant anti-Trump text became publicly available. Our own Catherine Herridge is reporting that he was actually the lead investigator in this Clinton case. He hated Trump. He wanted the insurance policy. And then he moved on to the Russia, so-called Russia collusion case, and then he was put on Mueller's witch hunt team. In other words, this Trump-hating FBI agent played a lead role in pretty much completely everything, including clearing Hillary Clinton of charges, crimes we know she committed, and then tapped to investigate Donald Trump. One more reason the Inspector General's report should have been released by now. And meanwhile, as the Mueller witch hunt churns on, the special counsel, this is interesting. They are demanding that witnesses turn in their phones so Team Mueller, and of course his pit bull, Andrew Weissman, and Jeannie Ray, who worked for Clinton, get to review all of their electronic communications. He wants the phones turned over, even texts that are on what are called encrypted apps like WhatsApp or Signal or one of these things. Now, maybe Mueller's witnesses, I don't know. If I advised them to follow Hillary Clinton's lead, delete all your emails, and then acid wash the emails and hard drives on the phones, then take your phones and bash them with a hammer into little itsy-bitsy pieces, use bleach bit, remove the SIM cards, and then take the pieces and hand it over to Robert Mueller and say, Hillary Rodham Clinton, this is equal justice under the law. How do you think that would work out for everybody who Mueller's demanding their phones of tonight? Now, I'm certain the result would not be the same as Hillary's. And meanwhile, the person in charge of this Mueller witch hunt, the Deputy AG, Rod Rosenstein, he has responded to growing calls for his recusal, writing a letter to Senator Lindsey Graham stating he will recuse himself if deemed appropriate. And he's the guy that recommended Comey's firing. He signed off on the final FISA warrant based on Hillary Clinton's bought and paid for dossier that even Christopher Steele said maybe 50-50. So given that Rosenstein is overseeing an investigation where he's a key witness and he signed off on the FISA, I think it's probably deemed inappropriate a long time ago. And earlier today, former New York City mayor, current Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani had very strong words for the seemingly never-ending fishing expedition to undo the election of you, the American people. Watch what the former mayor had to say.
They are a group of 13 highly partisan Democrats that make up the Mueller team, excluding him, are trying very, very hard to frame him, to get him in trouble when he hasn't done anything wrong. Now, they may not know they're doing it. They may not realize they're doing it. But they can't emotionally come to grips with the fact that this whole thing of Russian collusion didn't happen, right? That they're trying to invent theories of obstruction of justice. The president fired the FBI director. The president has the right to fire the FBI director. The president should have fired the FBI director. He was a terrible FBI director.
Even Comey said he had a right to fire him. We'll get back to this witch hunt in a minute. Also tonight, bad news for the Trump-hating mainstream media. Their rampant, disgusting conspiracy theories about our First Lady, Melania Trump, being missing in action came all crashing down today as the First Lady appeared alongside her husband at an event in Washington, D.C. So much for the conspiracy theories. Take a look.
I'd like to sort of maybe say and pay some respects to some of the people here today. I have a list. Of course, we have to start with our great First Lady, Melania. Thank you, Melania. She's doing great. She went through a little rough patch, but she's doing great, and we're very proud of her. She's done a fantastic job as First Lady. The people love you. People of our country love you. So thank you, honey.
We're glad she's healthy. And by the way, her approval ratings are higher than the president's. And now also the president delivered a very special message for the media today on Twitter, writing, the fake news media has been so unfair, so vicious to my wife, our great First Lady Melania. During her recovery from surgery, they reported everything from near death to facelift to she left me in the White House for New York or Virginia to abuse. All fake, and she's doing really well. All right, let's turn our attention now to Kim Kardashian. Okay, you didn't expect me to say that, did you? Now, she visited the Oval Office, as you know, recently to shine a light on the criminal justice system and reform in particular, and one case involving Alice Marie Johnson, who was a great-grandmother. Remember, she was sentenced to life in prison after being found guilty of nonviolent drug charges. It was only her first offense. Today, President Trump commuted the sentence of Ms. Johnson, who has already served 22 years. Now, a few hours ago, Kim Kardashian thanked the president, writing, quote, so grateful to @Real Donald Trump, Jared Kushner, and to everyone who showed compassion and contributed countless hours to this important moment for Miss Alice Marie Johnson. Her commutation is inspirational and gives hope to so many others who are also deserving of a second chance. And, of course, by the way, this is likely just the beginning of what is a long-needed conversation in this country about sentencing, criminal reform that the president has vowed to tackle. This two-tier justice system that we now know way more than we should about, it stretches wide and it stretches far. These issues must be addressed. Equal justice under the law, equal application of the laws. By the way, we do wish Ms. Johnson all our best tonight. And meanwhile, someone who has actually benefited from our two-tier justice system, speaking of which, his whole entire life, former President Bill Clinton. Yeah, he's back in the spotlight. Believe it or not, he's finally facing some backlash from the mainstream media and Democrats over his long history of sexual abuse and misconduct. And Democrats in the media, remember, they protected the Clintons all through the last presidential campaign. That is until November 9th, 2016, the day after Hillary lost. Remember this.
Do you think differently or feel more responsibility?
No, I felt terrible then, and I came to grips with it.
Did you ever apologize to her?
No, yes, and nobody believes that I got out of that for free. I left the White House $16 million in debt. But you typically have ignored gaping facts in describing this, and I bet you don't even know them.
Do you feel like you owe her an apology?
No, I do. I do not. I've never talked to her, but I did say publicly on more than one occasion that I was sorry. I dealt with it 20 years ago plus, and the American people, 2/3 of them stayed with me, and I've tried to do a good job since then with my life and with my work. That's all I have to say to you.
Now, following that interview, Bill Clinton actually trashed NBC News for finally asking a tough question. Kind of questions they should have asked during the campaign in 2016, and they fired back. Take a look.
The former president, Bill Clinton, expressing some regret over his controversial remarks about Monica Lewinsky here on Today, but still making false allegations about that interview with Craig.
Overnight, the former president said that his interview with us was not his quote, finest hour. Speaking with Mr. Colbert, Mr. Clinton made another public apology for his behavior during the Monica Lewinsky scandal, but also took issue with the questions we asked him earlier this week.
I think the tape speaks for itself. Yeah. You, of course, did not assert that he never apologized. You asked whether he had apologized.
Thank you very much.
Of course, NBC News, the rest of the media is about 30 years too late. Remember, they gave Bill Clinton a complete and total pass until his wife lost the election. Right here on Hannity, we did call out Clinton's alleged sexual assault year after year, way before the Me Too movement and way before the left seemed to care about his misconduct. You might remember this.
You described the scene where he was biting on your lip, and then when it was all over, he was leaving. Said, you better put some ice on that.
Yeah, and casually put on his sunglasses and walked out the door.
It was a terrible ordeal for me, and no woman should be subjected to it. But it was an assault.
He assaulted you?
Yes.
He touched, grabbed, fondled,
yes.
and kissed you against your will?
Yes.
And it's an allegation that is not made by one woman, it's made by multiple
Many
women.
of us.
I said, well, I may need to be going or something. And next thing you know, he pulled down he sat down, pulled down his pants, his whole everything, and he was exposed. And I said, I'm not that kind of girl, and I need to be getting back to my desk.
That Juanita Broderick interview, one of the hardest I've ever done in the 23 and a half years here at Fox. Only one more example proving that we will never be the mainstream media. We do care about people, the American people, and we cover the stories. They just refuse to because they're so politically oriented, agenda driven. These are issues that should transcend politics.